Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you my picks and bets show for the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational. First off, thank you for stopping by. If you are new, welcome. And if you've been with me for a while, you already know what to expect. And so what we will be going through, of course, is all the research and analysis on how I got to my picks. And with that said, let's get into this. Okay, so if you missed the preview show, I always do my skill ranking from a stroke gain analysis. How do you win at this course? What does it take to win the event? And again, just to summarize, the top things that I see are pertinent from past experience at this course would be approach, ball striking. Of course, you got some longer par fours you have to manage, so ball striking always shows. Putting, good drives, lots of water, I believe, on 11 holes that comes into play. Always got to be good around the green if you're missing those greens. And then, of course, the proximity to the pin. 25% of the shots coming in are 150 to 175. And then last but not least, 175 to 200 is about 22% of those approach shots. As I already mentioned, you got long par fours that you got to be able to par and manage. So I'm looking at stroke gain on that. And then, of course, the two gettable par fives where you definitely have to strike. With that said, also I reviewed my comp courses and some of my favorite ones. All of these pretty much are Bermuda greens. 5 of them, which would be the Honda Classic, the Tour Championship, Wyndham, RSM, and Sony, are all par 70s. Kind of fit. Also, most of them have some water in play. I did add a couple. Valspar, which I think is a great comp course too. It is Bermuda. It's a par 71. But, from a length and how the course plays, I think it's very applicable. And then I also added RBC Heritage, of course, Harbor Town, which, has the very small greens. Also, you have to have good drives. So par 71 and water and all that. So those are going to be the 8 tournaments / courses that I'm going to be referencing as I go through my picks. And, just wanted to make sure you have that. Of course, here is pulling up on how people have done over the last 12 rounds. On 5 of these courses, the 5 would have been the Honda, of course, at PGA National, the Tour Championship at East Lake. You've got Wyndham at Sedgefield, RSM at Sea Island, and then Sony Open at Wailea. Okay, so from here, let's go jump into Fantasy National and let's dive into the details. Okay, so jumping over to Fantasy National, again, if you are new to the show, just so you know that this is the main tool that I use for all my research and analysis, I highly recommend it. I'm not affiliated, not trying to sell it, but if you are doing research already and want a very simple way of doing it, a quick way to kind of do a bunch of different analysis, I do recommend it. Okay, with that said, just so you know what we are looking at here, I have no filters on. I'm looking over the last 12 rounds, so last 12 events, which for some of these guys, that could be the Open, the Travelers, the U.S. Open. Of course, the Olympics is not going to be put into this data. You have here, I talked about my larger model. If you saw the preview show, you'd see that and the names that came out of that. Now I'm kind of really narrowing the focus on the key areas. So that's approach, ball striking, good drives. That 25% of the shots are coming from proximity 150 to 175. Of course, putting is always crucial. I also want to look at birdies gained. This is the one stat that it also tells you the health of how these guys are doing outside of just recent results. And of course, that's over here. And I can also look at tournament history. Just a side note, we are going to make sure we focus on tournament history for 2020 and 2019. Of course, before that, it was played at Firestone, a total different course, and it wasn't actually the WGC event that it is today, the St. Jude. So that doesn't really matter. It's just a total different course. Okay, so with that said, let's go in. Also, I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I have picked a lane, a narrative, whatever you want to call it, that is kind of pushing me to not really go with a lot of the guys that are coming back from the Olympics. There's multiple reasons why. I mean, those guys have played a ton of golf. They've had a ton of travel. I do think it's going to affect them, even if they, of course, there's no cut, but even when it comes to the weekend, you could see where that starts to kick in. So also, I'm not just picking the guys that I'm going to let you know only on that by any stretch, but it has persuaded me a little. So I'm letting you know that up front. You might say, hey, I think you're crazy, and that's fine, but that's just the way that I'm going. Okay, with that said, the first person, and what I've kind of done, I'm giving you 10 picks. Usually I give you 15, but because there's only 60 guys in this field, I'm keeping it down to 10. These are my top 10 guys that I'm going to be using in my core plays for DFS. I want to make that, and again, this is from a DraftKings perspective. You'll notice that right up here. So if you are a FanDuel player, you can still leverage these picks, but it's going to be different pricing. You can see projected ownership right here. All the information we want is right in front of us. So again, great tool. All right, let's drill into these. So I'm not going to go through all the guys I'm not picking. Sometimes I have little discussions about them. I kind of just summed it up. Most of the guys that I'm not picking, the Morikawas and the McIlroys, all those guys, a lot of it came down to, hey, I just think that 4 days of golf to travel that he just had, I want to go with some little fresher, and that's my own perspective. And of course, Brooks Koepka right off the bat, you can see almost 30% projected ownership. I mean, there's not much I need to really go in about Brooks Koepka. His tournament history here is, elite. And of course, we want to look at this. He won in 2019, a T2 in 2020. His recent results have been, in Fuego from the Open, the Travelers, U.S. Open, and of course, my narrative with Brooks is he going to give a crap about this tournament? Yes, he cares. He's only got one win on the season. Of course, that came at Waste Management. He's going to want this win. This guy likes to win, and of course, this is his kind of tournament. 60 guys, elite field. It's a WGC, and also it's a big paycheck, almost around $2 million to the winner. So yeah, Brooks Koepka is going to want to win this, and he's going to try. And when he tries, watch out. All right, if we go into Brooks, I did mention the comp courses that we're going to bang against. Let's just go take a look. You can see from a putting splits, Bermuda is his best. He gains, we'll just call it almost a half stroke when he's putting on Bermuda. So that's a strong positive, of course, strokes gain. And let's go look. What I'll do for you is just because approach, I think, is a key stat we want to look at. You can see from an approach, it has been on the way up. And if we start to look at some of the comp courses, there's another way we can do this. We can also just click on the position, and you get a real quick understanding of where he's done very well in his career. So you can see here it is WGC St. Jude, 2019 his win. The CJ Cup, that's a while ago, but that is a no-cut event. Just see if anything else stands out. I mean, whenever it's, we already know whenever it is a major or a WGC event, this was at Concession here released recently, not in Mexico. Again, St. Jude, we know. The Honda, which is a course that I think is a great, applicable as 2019. But anyways, that's a real quick way, but I do still like to kind of pour through each of these. So if we go look at RBC, he played it in 2020. He had a 7th there, which again, I think is a very good comparable course. The Valspar, it was a while since he played there. It was a miscut, but that was way back in 2014. Honda, we just saw he had a 2nd in 2019. Kind of just improved from miscuts, just got better and better. The Tour Championship at Eastlake, the last time he was there, he had a 3rd. And if we look at the players, it's been a while, but it was an 11th in 2018. Not sure if he's ever played. Yeah, the Wyndham was way back in 2015. RSM. And of course, the Wyndham, the RSM, and even Sony, that's easier fields, easier tracks, but, again, applicable from a course play, hence why I'm even looking at them. Okay, so I don't think I need to sell you on Brooks Koepka. As you see, his ownership's already crazy. And usually I would try to fade, and I looked for every reason possible not to play Brooks in this spot. But, you're getting a discount over Morikawa and Schauffele, who are making the travel back. Everything is kind of just pointing me in his direction from a starting phase. So there's nothing I could do from all angles that I can't come up with a good reason why you wouldn't want to start out with Brooks. The next guy I'm on is Jordan Spieth. Of course, his game has been also in Fuego. You can see, the recent last time we saw him was at the Open. He had a 2nd place. Just missed some crucial putts at the end there, or, easily could have won that over Morikawa. Good showing at the Open, the Memorial. He had a 2nd place at Charles Schwab. Let's also, you can see his projected ownership is almost at 22%. So other people are definitely on the Spieth. You can see the birdies over the last few rounds have been really good. Everything is solid green here, so he does everything. Of course, once he got, I think the big hiccup was the driver. He is hitting fairways left and right, so that is not a problem anymore. And hopefully it stays that way. He's definitely going to need to keep it in play at this course. You can see like Brooks almost gaining, 0.3 strokes. So again, just the simplest way is almost a half a stroke against the field when he's on Bermuda. If we do the same thing, if we look at just approach, what he looks like, he is on the uptick, so that is good to see. And let's do the same thing so we can just see, of course, he had the win at Valero, which is Bermuda Greens. Back in April, that was kind of the, he started to already show progress, but that was kind of solidifying that, hey, Spieth is back. If we just quickly scan through this at East Lake, he won back in 2015. He won at Valspar back in 2015. Again, I'm just looking kind of for the tournaments. Okay, let's go plug in the other ones I want to look at. So let's look at RBC. Oh, let me do this so we don't get the dates correct. Recently, not so good, but of course, he had that little bit of downturn, but he has had some good past success when he was at his peak of powers. If we look at the Valspar, as I mentioned, won back in 2015, miscut in 2018, but that's all a while ago. Let's go check out the Honda. He'd never played the Honda. That's interesting. The Tour Championship. Last time he was there was in 2017. He'll be there again this year. The Players recently at a 48th. Best was a 4th. He's had kind of a rough time at TPC Sawgrass, which a lot of the guys do. Tough course. What about the Wyndham? Best showing was a 2nd back in 2013, a 72nd in 2020. Has he played RSM? Nope. And what about the Sony? It was a miscut in 2019. And then also one I did want to look at is just look at the WGC events. Of course, these are no-cut events, and we could just click on this. So this is back at Bridgestone. I'm just seeing like the more let's look at the most recent. Best finish was St. Jude. That was, of course, at TPC Southwind. And yeah, okay. That is all I think I need to discuss on Jordan. The next guy, Louis, of course, he had a nice little break. He is, elite in all the categories that I am looking at from a stroke game perspective. Also, his ownership's high. And I mean, projected ownership for a lot of these guys, because we have such a small field, is, it's going to be ridiculously high. It's going to be find the guys down below. That's going to differentiate from a GPP large field area. Of course, recent results, ridiculous, T2s, T3s. His history here, last time he played was a T6 last year. So that's good. Of course, he's been making the birdies. The guy's putter's been in fuego, leading the tour with stroke game putting this year. You can see over his life, Polo was his best, but Bermuda has been, second best. But, these stats, of course, is over his career. So that's a little hard to really understand what he's been doing with the putter. Let's look at strokes game putting. That's probably a good way. So you can see here, it just went in fuego over the last, really the whole season. If we look at approach, it'll be the same thing. Not too concerned. Yep. On a nice up steep. Okay. Again, if we look at real fast, just to look at where he's done well in his career. Of course, he's got a lot of recent second places. I mean, the guy is the king of second place. But you can see Valspar, the one that kind of sticks out in 2019. The Players, 2017. Just see anything else kind of sticks out to me. That's a long time ago. WGC Mexico. So we can also look at the WGC events. Let's do that right now while I'm thinking of it so I don't forget. And let's look at them most recently. So this is one at Concession. Of course, this is the current tournament that we're looking at. So we had a 6. So, some of these WGC no-cut events, he's had some good showings. Just kind of scrolling down. All right, let's go bang him against some of the comparable courses. So how about RBC Heritage miscut in 2020, but a 7th way back in 2015. Valspar, he had an 8th place finish recently, a 2nd, a 7th. So it's done well at Innisbrook, Copperhead. What about the Honda? Actually had a miscut back in March timeframe, but he's had a 24th, 21st before that. Tour Championship was back in 2019. He had a 21st at East Lake. What about the players? Not so good at TPC Sawgrass, but it's funny how like you'll see this pop up. But I mean, you can see it a second back in 2017. What about the Wyndham? Doesn't play. RSM, no go, and the Sony. Nope. Okay, so again, I don't think I need to sell you anymore on Louis. Again, should be fresh. Hasn't been since the Open. A lot of these guys, the last tournament we've seen them at, well, actually, Louis did play to 3M, but the other guys were the Open. Next guy I'm landing on is Daniel Berger. I mean, when I think of shorter Bermuda tracks that someone does well, and you can see, my model's got him at 3. His projected ownership again is up in the 20s. The birdies isn't the greatest thing that I like to see over the last. But, this isn't going to be a scoring fest. It's, past winners was 13 under to 16 under. So I'm not super concerned that he's not going to make enough birdies to win. Last time he played here, of course, he lost in the playoff. And we go click on Mr. Daniel Berger. I believe that's correct. I believe it was a playoff. Over his life of career, he does gain on Bermuda. And if we also look at the approach just to see, not as steep as some of the other guys, but it is on an uptick. That's good to see. If I click on this, of course, he won the AT&T Pro-Am earlier this year. He's won the Charles Schwab. He's won the St. Jude a couple times, but of course that was back at Firestone. I mentioned the second last year. The Travelers, he's done well. The Honda, RBC. So you can kind of see, again, all the comp courses that I'm, looking at. He's just nailed it. And we'll just go through again just specifically to see. So I mentioned the third. Let's do it by date. So we just have it. So a 13th recently, a third the year prior at RBC. Look at Valspar. He had a miscut in 2017. It's been a while since he's played there, but 11th way back in 2016. What about the Honda? He had a 4th recently. A 2nd back in 2015. Tour Championship at East Lake. You can see, I mean, that's, I'm pretty sure it's 30 guys. I just want to clarify that. Let's see. Yeah, 30 guys. So I think I've said 40 before, so I apologize, but it is out of 30. So, right dead middle of the pack when he's at East Lake. The players, he had a 9th recently, another 9th back in 2016. Was his best showing there. What about the Wyndham? A 39th, that's a little while ago. About RSM, real long time ago. And the Sony recently had a 7th at Wailea. So, again, if he's hot, he's typically putts pretty well on Bermuda. So, I definitely like some Daniel Berger. Paul Casey is the one guy, of course, that is coming back from the Olympics. I like what I've been seeing out of his game. You can see recent results, good showing at the PGA, the US. Not the greatest at the Travelers, but, decent showing at the Open. His best finish, can't even count that. So he had T27 and a T67. So not the greatest, tournament history here. Oh, yeah, and I didn't mention, of course, Daniel Berger, I believe, it was back in 2016 where, these guys can technically hit one tee shot and, withdraw and still get paid for, I think, the minimum, which would probably be about 30, 40K or something like that for this tournament. And that actually, I believe, did happen in 2016, if I remember correctly, Daniel Berger. So hopefully that's another, maybe a little bit on maybe some of those guys just showing up to get a paycheck. I highly doubt that would happen, but it's happened. Everything Paul Casey does well, right? It's all about the putter. The putter looked pretty good at the Olympics. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with it. I mean, we're going to need ball striking experts, and he's one of the best. Again, if I click, so you can see Bermuda over his life is a little less. I didn't cover his splits. Bent's his best over his career. If I just go on approach, definitely still trending on the way up. And if we just click on and take a look at it, of course, he's won it was back-to-back. He, of course, Burns won in this recent Valspar. We're going to talk a little bit about Sammy Burns. But we know he can play this type of courses where water comes to play on, maybe over half of the holes. Valspar also plays. It's a long par 71, even against its yardage. Just seeing if there's any one other ones that stick out. Of course, the Wyndham, the Honda, he's done well at. The Tour Championship, the Honda. And then we'll go run these through again to see. So the RBC, and let's click on dates. So we get the most recent. So funny enough, he's had 3 miscuts in a row. He had 18th, but that's just got to be the putter. Let me just see here. Just off the tee, struggled a little bit. Nothing great on approach. I mean, that seems like a perfect course for him. But there you go. The Valspar we already discussed. He had a 21st recently, but a couple wins before that. The Honda, he's had a 4th, a 3rd. Most recent was an 11th back in 2017, so that's a bit old. Tour Championship, last time there was 2019. He had a 5th, so you could kind of look at his career at East Lake, top 5. So that's good. And what about the players? He had a 5th recently, a 10th, a 22nd. So he gets TPC Sawgrass is hard to stay, like typically you see the guys, they have a good showing there and then they have a miscut. And then a good showing, that's just typical at TPC Sawgrass. Because you could have one hole that just blows you up like a Kevin Na on 17, and there you go, you're all done. The Wyndham, pretty decent, a 3rd back in 2015, a 31st recently. And then I'm not sure if he plays in the RSM or what about the Sony? Yeah, a couple of miscuts, and that's a while ago. So, again, Paul Casey would be the first guy I'm plugging in that is coming back from the Olympics. But everything I like with his game just fits. The next guy, again, coming back from the Olympics, of course, Abraham Answer. I think I say this every time I pick Abraham Answer. Maybe this is the tournament. He finally gets his first PGA win. I hope so. I'm a big fan of Abe. He does everything that I like. It's just, can he put it all together? Typically, he's kind of a slow starter. He's been having, from a showdown perspective, man, ridiculous Saturdays and Sundays. It's just that Thursday, Friday that he typically doesn't really do a whole lot. So, note to self, you're playing showdown, never a bad play on a Saturday or Sunday. You can see making, up here on the birdie, so that's good. Does everything elite out of this field of 60 that I want to see. He's played here once, and he got a T15 last year. And yeah, pretty solid. I mean, he had a 4th at Travelers, missed a cut at the Open, but good showing at the Charles Schwab, the PGA, good showing. And let's go take a look at his splits from a putting side. Is positive on all, good putter. And if I click on approach here, you see the uptick, which is good to see. And then if I just click on where does this guy typically do well at, he had a 2nd at Wells Fargo, a 2nd at RBC, which is one of the courses I'm looking at. Just scan through, good showing at the Valspar, we already mentioned. Good showing at the Players a little while ago. Okay, so it just gives you kind of just a really fast look through, and then let's go look through each of them individually. So 18th recently at RBC, a 2nd before that. So gets around Harbortown pretty well. Valspar, he had a 5th recently. A 16th before that. What about the Honda? Miscut, only played there once in 2018. Tour Championship, had 18th back in 2020 and a 21st before that. The Players, a 22nd and a 12th. So pretty good showings at TPC Sawgrass. What about the Wyndham? Miscut in 2019 at 24th before that. Did he play in the RSM? A lot of these guys aren't going to play in the RSM, so hence why I always try to make sure I have quite a few comparable courses. Miscut recently at Wiley for the Sony, but, decent. 29th and a 38th before that. So, yeah, I like Abe again. So those two guys are making the travel back. And then I think my last guy I'm picking, and you can kind of see all these guys, especially Casey and Corey, they're all pretty elite ball strikers. I'd say the best putter out of all of them is Answer, and then, Casey and Connors, that they get hot. And, Corey was kind of a late ad. I was kind of back and forth on him, but the more I started to kind of think about where he's had his really good putting rounds, has been on Bermuda, and that's what we need with, Corey Connors to win. As you see, he's like ranked, technically it says he's ranked dead last out of this field. Recent results have been pretty good. Had a good showing at the Olympics. I think if I remember correctly, he had a really good, weekend. Kind of a slow start. But he's played here twice, a T30, T27. So, nothing spectacular, but, pretty good. Of course, just a elite ball striker. It's going to come down to the putter. Let's go click on Corey and see how he's done. I think it was the comparable courses that kind of pushed me over the edge. So you can see Bermuda is his best putting surface, even though he, against the field, he doesn't gain typically on any of them. And I'll show you that. Of course, we want to look at the approach for him real quick. A little dip here comparative to the where he was at. But, on a back upstroke, so that's good to see. And then if we do this, we click over on putting, and we look at where he's had his best putting showing. So, Bermuda, 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 Bermuda. The Zozo, that's bent. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. Let's go back and do that again. The Wyndham, Bermuda. The Northern Trust, we'll look at one more. That's bent. So you can kind of see where he typically does strike is, when he's on Bermuda. So that's part of the reason why I ended up going with Corey. Also, of course, the ball striking is elite. I'm just hoping he has that breakout putter session. I even got a bet on him. I think he's 50-1 or something like that. He's not my favorite bets, but just so I put an outright bet on him. It was kind of one of the first guys I thought of. He's due for a win. This could be a great spot for him. So RBC, of course, plays that course very well. You got to hit a lot of good drives. Valspar, he had a 21st recently, a 16th before that. What about the Honda? Miscut recently, a 59th before that. He didn't play in 2021 at the Honda. Tour Championship, he had an 8th. Take it back. I don't know why the Masters pops up for that, but if I do that, so in 2019 is the only time he played a Tour Championship. He had a 26, so not too fabulous there. How did you do at the Players? He had a 7th recently, a 41st before that. What about the Wyndham? Miscut would be the most recent, 22nd or 45th. RSM. So he's actually played the RSM a few times, had a 10th recently. And then at the Sony, a 12th recently, and a 3rd and a 39th. So, again, this is all going on the hopes that he has a really good outing and, gets back on Bermuda where has some good showings. And again, his ownership's a little bit lower at 13%. So that's, for this, if you're below 15% ownership for guys that are like, 7,000 above, you're going to have some differentiation because, again, it's going to be all high ownership when you have a no-cut field. Jason Kokrak, a guy that, you would typically think is a bomber. But funny enough, I stated this before on this show, and you probably heard it maybe from other analyst guys. Jason Kokrak actually plays smaller courses better than he plays big courses. It's just, you can just go over the history of where he has his successes. Of course, he's been elite with the putter over this year. Got that lengthened putter by an inch, and it's just been amazing. You can see he's making birdies. Pretty good recent form. Of course, he won the Charles Schwab, which, again, is a smaller track, tree-lined, older course. You have to play it well. Pretty good showing at the Rocket Mortgage. And he's played here once. He had a T44 back last year. And, of course, he did not make the trip to the Olympics, so hopefully he is pretty fresh. You can see Bermuda over his life is his best putting surface. But, again, it's hard to look at this because of the success he's had with the putter over the last year. We look at approach, on the way up. So that's a good sign. I'll do the same thing. If we look at just real quick where he has done well. The CJ Cup was at Shadow Creek. That was actually bent. So I just wanted to check that. Okay. But it was a no-cut event that he won. I think that was actually his first one on tour. Of course, he's done well at the Valspar, which I like. Arnold Palmer, Bay Hill, bigger course, but there's water. It is Bermuda, so there's some crossover. RBC. The Valspar again. The Players. The Honda. So, yeah, the things show up that I want. Now let's go look through it specifically. And let's pull by date. So he had a miscut recently at RBC, but, a 16th, a 6th, so kind of a little mixed bag there, but, definitely can manage the course. Let's go check out Valspar. So pretty good showing at the Valspar. 13th recently, a 2nd, an 8th, a 7th. So likes Innisbrook. The Honda, a 9th would be his most recent. A couple of miscuts before that. The Tour Championship, played here back in 2019. About middle of the pack, 14th. The Players, a 9th recently. This is his best finish. So we'll go with that. What about the Wyndham? He's played the Wyndham quite a bit. Pretty good. 15th, a 6th, a 16th. So again, smaller track, but handles it. Bermuda RSM. A couple miscuts recently. So, you know, a 10th is his best showing. That's a while ago. So it's kind of interesting. At Sea Island, he doesn't do as well. And then at the Sony and Wailea, best showing was a 17th, but recently a 56. So, again, trying to get a little differentiation. 7,800, I like Jason Kokrak. I think he's kind of sneaky because I think a lot of people view him, even as I did a while back, that, you know, he was just a bomber. But that's not the case. You know, I'm bringing in Sammy Burns. I think maybe some people, I mean, you can see his projected ownership is 15%, but I still think he's kind of a sneaky pick. Bermuda Burns, right? I mean, we're getting him back on Bermuda where he just does severe damage. His game, you know, good showing at the Travelers, but kind of hit or miss. He's never played here before, so you can kind of hold that against you. You can see his birdies really have kind of slumped off comparative to what he was doing. Let's go take a look. So you can see Bermuda, he gains, you know, out of everybody we looked at, he owns Bermuda greens, so gains over a half stroke. If we look, let's look from an approach side, how he's been doing. You know, he kind of had this dip, but kind of on the way back up, so that's good to see. Let's go click on his best just finishes, just so we can get a quick. So, of course, he won the Valspar recently. Byron Nelson, he had a 2nd right after that. Done well at the Genesis. Just trying to see, of course, the Honda, RBC, he shows up. Valspar again. Wyndham. So let's go plug these in, look at them one by one. Let's click on date here, make sure we got the most recent. Okay. So a 9th back in 2019, a 39th recently at RBC. Let's go look at Valspar. Of course, he won recently a 30th and a 12th before that. So he does like Innisbrook. Honda, a 64th. Did not play in 2021. How'd you do at the Players? Miscut recently. I think I remember that. I think we had a really good West Coast, and then when he came over to Florida, we all were really excited, and then it didn't happen. And then, of course, we went out and won Valspar. And I think he was 80-1, which, you know, I hit that bet, so that was nice. I didn't forget about Burnsy. 13th at the Wyndham, the one time he played it. RSM, he had a 37th once back in 2018. And a couple of miscuts at the Sony. So, you know, you can make, there is some reasoning why you'd say, but for that price tag, you know, and what I've tried to do is pick a couple guys at each price bracket. I don't know if I stated that off the bat. You know, at that price, I think it's a good value. I think, you know, he is typically elite tee to green and puts the lights on Bermuda. So that's my case. He's also should be pretty fresh. The last time we've seen him was at the Open. So he's had, you know, a couple weeks off. And then my last guy is Lee Westwood. And as you can see, projected ownership is significantly low. But what I didn't forget about Lee Westwood is that he hits fairways, usually very elite on approach, and he was amazing on the Bermuda run in Florida, right? So for 6,600, and this is going to be my kind of differentiation guy that I'm going to plug in. I was kind of back and forth between him and Kevin Na. I think Kevin Na is a pretty good play too. I think around the same price as this guy. You can see the birdies have fallen off a bit. His, you know, recent form not the best, but you know he's played. Has actually not played in this one, so he hasn't played TPC Southwind. But let's go take a look at, you know, what Lee Westwood has done very well. So you can see over the life of the career, funny enough, POA over his life, which is a really huge data sample, is where he kind of shines. If we look again for him at approach, kind of had this uptick and then a little bit down. Let's go look. Now, see, this is what's interesting, right? His best finishes, you know, Bermuda, water courses that we saw. And then, it's going to go back a bit. And then if I scroll, I'm just trying to see another recent one here, anything that sticks out to me. I mean, he really started playing the PGA Tour this year, gave a full commitment to it. So I don't know how much we're going to see through some of these comp courses. So RBC at a 63, that's not great recently. Valspar at a 17th, but that's way back in 2017. The Honda recent would. So if you guys remember, that's kind of, let me see here just a second. Okay, that's what I wanted to see because he missed the cut. So remember what happened was he played a lot of golf and, he probably should have took the Honda off, but I remember something about the guy who runs the tournament gave him like his first break. There was a relationship there and he went and played and he was just burned out. That was like the back-to-back players and the API, second place, runner-ups. But, you could see he's had good showings at the Honda. And you could see this way back in 2006. So I think that was like one of his first invites he received and always felt like, he owed it to Honda to make sure you could see every year he came over and played that event, even when he was not playing the PGA quite a bit. So long story short, I don't hold that against him at all. He was literally just burned out. And he said it, I think he went in with all expectations because he's done well there, but he just said, honestly, I just was burnt out. It was a while since he's been at the Tour Championship. The Players, of course, the second we just talked about recently. He's had some good showings at TPC Sawgrass. Again, long career he's had. What about the Wyndham? Never played the Wyndham. I doubt the RSM. Yeah, I guess he did actually back in 2020. Missed the cut. And what about the Sony? Did not play. So, this is a little different. It's my differentiation, kind of pick. What I know about Lee, I think he would fit this course really good if he's doing what he does. So that's it. Let's go jump back and summarize. Okay, so my top 5 DFS plays are going to be, and again, I'm only doing 10, so this is my first 5. Of course, Brooks Koepka holding the trophy there. Try to find every reason not to play him because of how high his ownership is, and I'm going to look for other areas to differentiate, as I mentioned, like Lee Westwood. So he would be my number one kind of starting guy. Of course, Jordan Spieth. And both these guys should be fresh. Have had a little bit of time off. Louis played the 3M Open, but has also had a nice week off. Been playing great. Hope he keeps just playing the way he is. So that's my top 3 guys. You got Berger. When I think of smaller Bermuda courses, I think of Daniel Berger, first guy I think of. And then Paul Casey was the first guy in that's coming across from the Olympics. But again, a couple wins at Valspar. I think is a great comp course for this. So I'm plugging him in. If he has a good day with the putter, he could easily win this tournament. And then my last 5 is going to be Abraham Ancer. Again, I say this every time. I think this is a course he could win at. Looking for good things here. Looking for to get his first win. Corey Connors was a little bit back and forth. But the more I kind of dug into it, I'm just hoping Corey has that elite putting expose on Bermuda, where he's had some good showings before. Jason Kokrak, I thought it'd probably be a little more sneaky than what I saw, but does play the shorter courses better. Good putter, great ball striker. Looking for him to keep to do the same. And then probably my sneakier kind of pick would be Lee Westwood from a leverage play. Good showing on Bermuda, good showing on the courses that fit this recently. So should be fresh. And then last but not least, also kind of, a little differentiation would be Sammy Burns, Bermuda Burns. I'm going to plug him in. So that is my 10 guys. That'll be my core plays from a DFS perspective. Okay, and then to give you some of my favorite bets, I would like to just give you kind of a precursor that I do like the long shots. You guys have seen that. I've hit a lot of long shots. It's been a season of long shots, so hoping that trend happens. But with that said, you've got the top 49 out of the 50 best players in the world playing in this tournament, and typically in these kind of no-cut events, it is going to be one of the top guys that win this event. I think it's been like 8 out of the 9 last years. But when I put money on golf, I am going to take the longer odds. It's just the way I do it. And so the first guy I'm taking is Sammy Burns. Again, Bermuda Burns. Elite tee to green. Hopefully that form comes back a little bit. Won at the Valspar. And we're on Bermuda again. We're in Memphis. 80-1. He's an LSU guy. So, I think it kind of correlates. That's what I'm going with. But yeah, I'm going to go with Burns 80-1. I think it's a great bet. For 130-1, I'm going to go ahead and take, put some money on Matthew Wolff. Now, this is a super long shot. Form has been very hit or miss. It seems like he's been getting off the tee better. Can get super hot with the putter. Great on approach usually. I'm just looking for one of those crazy out of nowhere. He won at TPC Twin Cities, which you could say is also a comparable course here. So hey, yeah, there's not really good odds from a betting perspective. So I'm picking the few guys that I think could possibly hit this thing. And then last but not least, kind of out of nowhere, Billy Horschel, again, elite putter on Bermuda. Last time we saw two good showings from Billy. That would have been WGC Concession. He came in second. That was on Bermuda. There was some water on that course. He had to navigate. And then even the Dell, where he won the Dell match play, you could make some correlations at the Austin, Texas Country Club. If you look at it from a distance perspective, there is definitely some crossovers. I don't know. This is one of my spidey senses are tingling that Billy Horschel could have a nice showing here. So this is my 3 bets. I understand if you don't follow along, I say this every time, even though I've hit a lot of them recently with the Cameron Champ and the Glover. But if you're going to bet on golf, I always like a little bigger upside from an odds. That's just me. Okay. That does it for my picks and bets show. And again, if you would please click the like button. If you like what I do, share it with anybody else that you think might. If you are new and listening to this, I would appreciate greatly to subscribe. I am on a surge to try to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I am going to have a really nice giveaway. You know what? I will make sure that I get that out tomorrow. I was going to do it today and just kind of forgot about it, but it's going to be a pretty nice little giveaway I'm going to be having. So subscribe, and I put out 3 shows a week. And if you have anything that I can help you with, you can hit me up on Twitter at DFS Golf Guru, or just hit me up on YouTube comments. Anything from one and done, or if you're playing a cash game, who you like, I'll give you my perspective, and you can do what you like with that. All right, guys, all the best of luck to us. I will put out a value plays before the lock show, whatever you want to call it, tomorrow, mostly to give you guys ownership projections. Also, talk weather, anything I see from pressers, keep you up to date. All right, guys, all the best of us. I will talk to you later. Take care.